Hello, I'm Caroline Gow, your host for the town meeting this evening, and I have the privilege of meeting with our candidates for the Village of Northbrook, the caucus slate, and we have the village president and 3 board of trustee members. So let's get to know the candidates. So for president, we have Kathryn Ciesla. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi. Thank you very much for having us today. This is great, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. And Muriel Collison.
Hi, thanks again for having us.
And Dan Pepoon.
Hi, thanks so much, Carolyn, for having us.
Absolutely. And Joy Ebhomielen.
Hi, Caroline, and you did awesome with pronouncing my name. Thanks again for having us.
You know, it's absolutely my pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. So the format of this evening for the town hall, it's a Q&A. The community has given us some questions ahead of time, so I'm going to ask one of you a question, and if another of you wants to chime in with your own response, feel free to do so before we move on to the next question. Are we all set?
Yep.
All right, Kathryn, may we start with you?
Sure.
All right, what are the most pressing issues facing Northbrook in the next few years?
Okay, I think one of the most obvious is COVID. And what stems from that is making sure that our economy stays robust. I think communicating with residents and making sure residents know what's going on and how to navigate is also something that we need to focus on. And we need to be supportive of our residents. People are having a very hard time emotionally, financially, so we need to do what we can to provide people with information and resources. Following that, just in general, even without COVID, society is changing in the way that people acquire goods, right? Retail, we're seeing less retail. We're seeing different things come in our industrial area. So we have to be nimble. We have to be flexible to allow for some of that growth and adjustment. And we need to really become efficient or continue to be efficient financially and continue to promote those revenue sources. We've got a sustainability plan coming before us soon. So we need to set some priorities and see what we can do with respect to incorporating some more sustainable options into our community. And we've got facilities. We've got a park district, or excuse me, a public works garage and a police station that needs some significant renovation, if not new facilities. And then the last issue is we have significant transitions in leadership. I'm the senior trustee and I'm set to move off the board, and I hope to be elected village president. But currently, we would have, once I'm done, we would have one trustee with 10 years of experience, another with 4 years of experience, and then the remaining trustees, the remaining 4, would all be in their first term or have less than 4 years of experience. So it's critical to lead the effort in that respect. And we've also got some planned retirements for staff. We're losing our village manager to retirement, our director of finance, our director of planning and development. So we're bringing in and we're moving up people into some of those roles and bringing in new, but really getting us to continue with the strong culture of the village is going to happen, but we're going to need to allow some time for that to happen. So that was a big list, but I hope that I provided you with lots of info.
Good, way to start. Does anybody else want to chime in on her answer?
I do. This is Dan. We also are having our police chief retire, as well as our assistant police chiefs. So in the police force, our village manager, Richard Narstedt, will be the one that is working on getting a new police chief. And we felt it important when a sergeant opening came into existence in the not too recent past, that the new police chief would be the best one to work through staffing and what was best for our community. So we've kept that position on the payroll, that sergeant position, but with the ability to hire an extra person, we did so in a new patrolman, so we have additional people out on the streets.
Nice. Thank you, Dan. Muriel, how would you describe your leadership style and how do you plan to collaborate with your counterparts if elected?
I would definitely describe my leadership style as roll your sleeves up and get to work. I like to see things happen and get done. In the past 8 years, with serving 4 years on the Plan Commission and then 4 years as a trustee, I've really learned how to collaborate and respect my fellow board members and their opinions while still maintaining my true self. And sometimes I am, the no vote, and I'm okay with that. But it's a lot about realizing that everybody in this community is more similar than we are different. And looking at other people's opinions and viewpoints, and there's usually something in there that you can agree on. So finding that something and moving forward from that point.
So it sounds like you try to collaborate and bring people together.
That's what I try to do. I'm also, I'm not a sugarcoater. Anyone who's watched a board meeting will see that. Kind of say it like it is. That could be appreciated or not appreciated. But, especially when it comes to development, which my experience is in, I like to, and all across the board, I like to be told the truth. I like when people come before us, I like what they're saying to be backed up with facts and to be accurate. And so I'm kind of a stickler for that, and, making sure that I've dotted the I's and crossed the T's and checked with, other departments and schools and just making sure that everything that a developer may say is actually accurate. Mm. So I guess I can be a little outgoing, we'll say, or direct, but I prefer direct. We're all busy and we basically are volunteering because we all love Northbrook. And so I like to get to the point, and I definitely don't like to keep saying the same thing over and over again. So I guess that's my style.
Excellent. All right. Joy, what are the initiatives you would pursue if elected?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Because I'm really new, I believe, first of all, that I need to kind of follow the priorities that the board has already put together. For example, the affordable housing and sustainability. Those are key areas that they really want to focus on. I think for myself, in the climate we're in now, also COVID, right? Let's figure out how we can get the shots in the arms, as Dr. Fauci says, get shots in the arms for our residents so that we can quickly try and get back to what is called normal life. And then personally, there are two areas that I want to focus on, and that is the youth development, as well as we have a lot of seniors here in Northbrook, just priorities that would focus on them too.
Tell me more about the youth development you were mentioning.
Well, I think when you think about it, that when we talk about when we talk about diversity and inclusion, sometimes that, that begins at home, and that begins with the youth. And so what I would like to see is where we can have strategies and tactics that would educate the youth on diversity, on inclusion. And I think when we do that, then they grow up to be adults that already recognize that. So that's something that I would be interested in looking into.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Anybody else wanted? Catherine? Yeah.
Caroline, I'm wondering if I could pop in here. One of the things that Joy talked about is COVID and the vaccines. And it's important for residents to know that the way that we can help is by offering as much information as possible to let people know how and where they can be vaccinated. Cook County Health Department is the one that's responsible for rolling those vaccines out for our area. Northbrook doesn't have a health department. We rely on Cook County. So we are doing our level best to get information out to residents to make sure they know where they can go and what they can do. And recall, we also have that property Granger, and we've offered that to Cook County as a site to host vaccinations. They haven't taken us up on that offer at this point, but it's certainly a possibility. So we will continue to do everything that we can to get that information out to people, and do whatever we can to support the county in their endeavor to get folks vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's so vital, because I was just talking with my mom. She lives in another county outside of Chicago, and it's been hard because in that county, they're just not getting the information. And so we were discussing that one of the things that's frustrating to her is she doesn't know how much she needs herself to go and to figure this out or do searches. And if there was just somebody to say, yeah, you're okay, it's okay that you're 100,000th person in line, but we're going to get to you. Whereas she doesn't know whether to jump in and do that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that when we talk about communication, I know that Kathryn, that's one area that you have done a lot of work on. And so communication is really important, like you said, in order to get this information out to the people. And I know that we have seen a lot of improvement in terms of, social media, text messages, and newsletters. So I know that was one of the areas that I know I'm not in there yet, but I know that's one of the areas that has been a big focus on and that we've seen a lot of improvements.
Yeah. Muriel, did you want to add something?
Oh, I was just gonna mention on the vaccine, just how key communication is. And so Joy sort of hit the nail on the head with that. I spent most of last night helping my friends, parents, and elderly people get appointments, because to expect senior citizens to be able to navigate downloading apps and getting online and getting into queues and answering all sorts of questions online, I was happy to help, and I'm really grateful for the communication, especially under the helm of Kathryn, because she was in charge of that committee for several years. I'm very grateful that the second that it's okay to park cars on the street, we get a text. That the second that there's news to report, it's texted to people, it's on the website, and it's been taken a step further. Our Facebook page is phenomenal. We just had a snowman contest, and here we are in a pandemic, and one of the initiatives, you didn't ask me this question, but an answer. One of my initiatives has always been, along with the current board, really taking care of and nurturing our residents' spirits during this time, and having things like 4th of July porch parades, and really thinking outside the box, these snowman competitions and takeout Tuesdays, and ways to help our local businesses and our residents. And I think we had 60 or more snowmen in the competition.
That many? Wow.
So it was great. We have really great communication, and I've actually been on several Facebook pages. Any Northbrook Facebook page I'm pretty active on. And there's other working moms pages and things like that, where other communities, people in other communities are commenting on how they wish that they were more like Northbrook, and how Northbrook's doing all these great things, and why can't they do more things like Northbrook. So that makes me really, really proud that we've taken Kathryn's work, we've taken it up another notch, and I really feel like we're at the top of our game there for our residents.
Neat.
Hey, don't forget the masks and the what is it, sanitizers.
What about
yeah.
What you?
We gave out at the beginning of the pandemic, when people, even before a mask order went out, it was imminent. We gave out more than 15,000 masks and more than 10,000 bottles of hand sanitizer to residents and businesses. We had 2 events, and I'll tell you, every single board member was there with their families passing things out. We didn't leave it to staff. We were all there, coordinating and handing things out. And many communities were envious in that we were providing that to our residents when those items were so scarce.
Right, that was early on, and that's an example of Muriel's.
Yes, and also the masks came from a local company.
Yes, a Northbrook
And
company.
one thing that this board is and has been is we are local first. We look local first whenever we can, however we can support, promote our local businesses, we do that first. So that was doubly great that we were out there and we were handing out masks that were from a local company as well.
I too would want to chime in on the mask giveaway. We had 2 events. The first was at Granger, and I just was so proud to have all of the families of the Board of Trustees members there participating. And then that proved so successful that it backed up the streets, and we moved to Northbrook Court, where we had a lot of parking lot to queue cars through, and it was just a wonderful event in both cases. So proud of the family involvement that we portrayed.
Yeah, that seems like ages ago now.
It does.
Almost there.
Dan, being on the village board requires a lot of reading and due diligence work. I like a community member mentioned this one. So to get an idea of scale, sometimes thousands of pages in a few days ahead of a hearing. How would you go about managing that process of your time on behalf of the village?
Well, thankfully, much of the content that comes our way, and it comes to us digitally, is downloaded on Friday by our staff. But when we receive it, many times, much of the material is things that has already gone through us. So while there might be hundreds of pages, we might have been the opening of those hundreds of pages when we were the first look at something that went to the Plan Commission, and the Plan Commission is bringing it back to us after having vetted it thoroughly and done at least one public meeting, if not several. And to that end, I was fortunate enough to serve on the Plan Commission with Muriel for 4 years. I happened to be there for almost a decade prior to that. And so got to know a lot of things about the different areas that come to us and how to attack it. So the first step for me is, when it comes on Friday, is a quick skim. And if there's places that I haven't seen or been to recently, I like to use the weekend as a time to have a site visit and review some things. And I like to leave our staff alone over the weekend. I find that when I send them an email on the weekend, they're always responding over the weekend. And I think they need some time off. They're terrific. So I kind of wait to send out questions to Monday for our Tuesday evening meeting.
Interesting. Anybody else have a different view?
I'll just say that it's also it's not just the reading. To really do the job right, especially with some of these developments, it's going to the site, walking the site, getting out of your car, driving the neighborhood. I mean, just really like going and looking at what's in front of you on the screen. And also, and I know that Joy will be excellent in this. She is, she's such a friend of the community and very open and easy to talk to. My kids would complain, Mom, do we have to shop at Sunset? It takes an hour and a half to get out of there. So a lot of it is listening to the residents and hearing them. And it's a lot of, can I talk to you for a minute at Sunset or at Starbucks or wherever you are, and taking that time as well. So it really is, it is time consuming, but if it's something you love, it doesn't feel like any time at all. So.
And I think to Muriel's point, and Dan too, one of the keys is not just reading or seeing, it's being accessible, and it's also talking to people, right? So if you know people in the neighborhood, sometimes people aren't in tune to what's going on. They see that little posting, but they don't really know. So you might ask, hey, this is somebody's looking to develop this here, or what do you think if this changed, or how do you feel about that? And to really reach out to people and solicit their opinions and their thoughts and their ideas, because they're in the area all the time, right? They see things that you're not going to see. And so it's really helpful to know your neighbors. And I think one of the things about the four of us that we all have in common is we're all tied to the community in different ways through different volunteer efforts and organizations, and through spouses or partners, and kids, right? You're really plugged in. So you have a lot of sort of antlers out there, right? Reaching into different areas, which makes you more accessible and approachable and really helps get you where you want to go, right? You want a lot of input when you're making decisions.
Right.
I guess I could make additional comment on that. That was just this past weekend. So as I'm getting involved in all the campaigning that's involved with this great opportunity, we were at Josh's over the weekend, and I got the opportunity to meet a lot of residents here in Northbrook and talk to them. And a lot of them wanted to talk and wanted to understand what we were doing. And we explained to them that we are just coming, first of all, we're supporting Josh's, who's a great business here, local business. And then secondly, we were telling them about who we were and what we were doing and why I wanted to, why Joy wanted to be a trustee. And a lot of them had interesting issues. I mean, there was an example of one person that was talking about the downtown district and how they, would like to see additional improvements there. And I immediately pulled Catherine and said, hey, come over here and meet this lady. And, I don't want her to go away thinking that we're not thinking about the same issues that they're thinking about, right? So I called Catherine, and Catherine chatted with her and told her some of the things we're looking at. And I think she walked away really excited. And, I think that's definitely a vote for us.
Right. So the lady thought she was getting ribs, but she also got her answer.
Yes.
Great. I will ask this question of each of you, but if we could have Catherine, I'd like to know, why do you want to be village president?
One of the values that my parents raised me with is giving back, and being on the village board or being on any commission with respect to the village, it's a community service. So I love to do that. I love to serve the community. I have an aptitude for it. And I think that I feel like I am a leader. I feel like I've developed real knowledge of what's going on with the village. And I feel that as Sandy retires, I feel like I am a good steward to step into that role and help the village continue to be the excellent place that it is. And my final reason would be that I'm the mom of two girls. Kylie is 18 and a college freshman, and Jenna is 16 and a high school junior at GBN. And to me, the best job in the world is that of mom. And I want to instill in my daughters the same as my parents instilled in me, the value of giving back, the value of stepping up, and doing your part to help people and to make your community better. So, and I think they've been raised just like Muriel's kids, going to the grocery store or Starbucks or wherever, saying, "Mom, can we get the heck out of here?" Talking to people, but I do see it now as they're teens. I really do see it paying dividends. So it's all about those things for me.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll hear from the three trustees. Joy,
Sure.
why do you want to be the village board trustee?
Well, as I said, this is new to me, being on the village board trustee, but actually community activism has never been new to me. I've been doing it all my life. And like Catherine said, I'm also came from a family of philanthropists that always gave back to their community. Within Northbrook, I have worked with the Northfield Pantry. I've worked in the Community Relations Commission. And as you know, I've been in almost every single PTA program that's happened with my 3 kids. So I've always been involved in the community. And for me at this time, with my kids being older, I felt that this was an opportunity to do even more. And I've been in Northbrook for 16 years. And I feel that this is really an opportunity for me to give back because I truly care.
Thank you. Dan, how about you? Why would you like to be village trustee?
Well, I've lived in Northbrook for 35 years. I'm married and have 3 children, all of whom attended District 28 and graduated from Glenbrook North. It was during that growing up time with my kids that I first experienced firsthand how important volunteering was for the community. So my wife Paris and I were among those that raised our hand and said, yeah, we can do that. And that started in grade school and continued through grade school and into coaching, where it really became apparent to me as a coach of basketball, baseball, soccer, and being actively involved in the football program, though not a coach, how important volunteering was in the community. It's what makes Northbrook as special a place as it is. So after serving for 15 years on the Plan Commission and starting the Bicycle Task Force and being on it for over 5 years, I thought the next logical place was to throw in my hat to be on the Village Board of Trustees. And so I happen to be a senior vice president at Merrill Lynch. And I thought that background in the financial area would fit in well with what's needed in the village, working with the chief financial officer that we mentioned is now retiring from our staff, and all that comes with it, the ability for us to have a balanced budget, which we did this past April, and 40% reserves on top of that.
Wow.
And this all feeds into the capital improvement plan, where we have a 5-year outline of our future needs. My degree happened to come in mechanical engineering, so I have a continued fondness for how things work in the village. So the incredible public works department that we have, getting water from Lake Michigan that virtually no other inland communities get. These are things I'm so proud of and want to see continue into the future and prosper.
Right. When I asked Sandy what was special about Northbrook, she mentioned that we're the only off-site town that takes water from Lake Michigan, which is pretty cool. Well, great. Thanks, Dan. And Muriel, why would you like to be village trustee?
Well, I think that all of us have different reasons why we love Northbrook. Out of everybody running in this election, I am the only homegrown, truly candidate. I have lived here my entire life, with the exception of college and law school, and a few years after law school, till I could afford to move back, and I did as soon as I could. And it's amazing going around Northbrook, and I see people that I grew up with. And to grow up in Northbrook is a unique experience, and it's special. And my heart truly beats for Northbrook. We talk about tobogganing at Meadow Hill, and when we used to go bowling down on Skokie Boulevard and see movies and meet at the Lion Water Fountain and share a greasy brown paper sack of Luli's fries. I mean, these are the experiences I truly believe in. My children are 5th generation in my family home that I purchased in Northbrook from my parents, who moved across the street.
Oh,
Dad was a trustee in the 80s. And I truly, truly believe, and it's been my reason for being a plan commissioner and a trustee, I truly believe that Northbrook is the best place to live, to work, and to raise a family. So I'm very invested, and I think so far so good in my children having the kind of childhood and living in the type of community that I did growing up. And I just don't think that there is a better place than Northbrook.
it's in your blood. Fabulous.
It is. Yeah.
Kathryn, Give some examples of things you've done recently to have open discussions within the community.
A couple of things come to mind. One thing that Joy touched on is affordable housing. Unlike any other issue I've seen, over a period of, I think, 18 months or 2 years, we had 14 public meetings on the issue of affordable housing. And not only that, but we sought community input through different programs, different sources, surveys, meetings, and the like, which really helped us craft something that I think the community, the majority of the community, really buys into. We're going to carry that forward, that type of work forward in our selection of a village manager. We're going to involve not just, the board, and that's the one employee that we supervise, but we're going to involve the community. We're going to involve our different governmental partners, the park district, the library, schools, to really have a committee that will help us vet, what kind of person do we want? What kind of person will relate to all of these different groups? So I think that that's an example of the collaboration and the partnership that we have with the community as a board and the culture that we've created. And finally, Muriel touched on it. It's the social media. It's the newsletter. We went from an all paper newsletter to a combined paper and e-newsletter. So we're still letting people get the paper because people like it, but we're also able to communicate more frequently, more openly about serious things and about lighthearted things that really binds us together in a positive way. So I think that, those are all ways that we've really embraced communication and embraced public input. And I look to continue to do that. There's no reason we can't, because we can all, send an email or reply to a survey in our bathrobes on a Saturday morning. So we can get in front of people in a much easier way today than we could when I started this 12 years ago. So we need to capitalize on that.
Excellent. So let's go over to Dan. There have been some opposing voices to the slate this year. How would you work to bring more unity to the village so that everyone feels they are being heard?
By listening. So as I walked around and got signatures for our caucus, it wasn't, can you sign here and walk away? It was a conversation. So we talked about the affordable housing. We talked about the scare tactics being thrown out, that we are looking at defunding police. And I walked through them with them what was happening in our community. And there's no even remote thought that that's what we're about. I talked about how our wonderful police force it does such a fine job, and as other police forces come and train because we do so well, they also have at their disposal other avenues for psychological help. So we help fund organizations that can help our police do more than just the police work. So by listening to the community, and boy, I sure hope that we can get back to a time. I'm a train commuter, and on the platform of Metro was a time that a lot of conversation used to occur. I hope that happens once again. And that's another way to tie in people with being visible on the platform.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to add a little to that, if you don't mind. Yeah, I think, one of the ways that we can do this is also leading by example, right? So we have to be able to listen to people, and we also have to be civil and hope that everybody is civil with you, right? And also, I think another important thing is that we have to understand what the underlying facts are. Like Dan had just mentioned, there's a lot of misinformation in terms of whether it's affordable housing misinformation or it's the defund police misinformation. I think people have to understand underlying facts. And then from there, it's being civil with each other and understanding what your issues are and trying to work together to resolve it.
Great. So I did have that question. I know that affordable housing has been mentioned already a few times tonight. So Muriel, could you outline the progress of the village's goal to reach our affordable housing?
Yes, the progress is that we have a plan.
All right.
And actually, the person who's running for president implemented a plan when he was president, Gene Marks, but his plan yielded 0 affordable housing units or projects or any progress to increase affordable housing in our town. So super excited that we were able to take a plan that was implemented during his presidency, and we were able to actually put some teeth into it through input, as Trustee Ciesla said, countless open public meetings, and that we have taken a huge step into welcoming people into our community, welcoming people who work here, who can now afford more to live here, hopefully, welcoming our children when they are done with school and want to move back to be able to afford it. I know I couldn't afford these dollars, the house that I bought here 16 years ago. We also have one of the oldest populations on the North Shore. Our median age is very high. So we look forward to hopefully having more opportunities to have some young families come into our town and choose Northbrook as the place they want to get a starter home. And hopefully we will have starter homes for them. And to honestly be a more inclusive village. And there's so many rumors, and it can be tiring, and kind of what you were asking before. I am very focused on responding to fear mongering and inaccuracy with facts. So really, there is no cost to the taxpayers for this program. This is not a Section 8 housing program. This is requiring developers to commit a certain percentage of new development to being affordable. It's a very intricate affordable housing plan, and it's well thought out. And we're using an example of a community that has had success with it. Highland Park was one of the examples that we used. They've had success with it, I think, for 15, 20 years, maybe even. And so I'm really excited. And I'm also really looking forward to having more affordable housing options for our seniors and for our disabled residents. My daughter is disabled and she has a disability, and it was disheartening to me when I toured some properties in Glenview and found out that Northbrook has no housing options for neurodiverse residents. So there's no home here for someone like my daughter, and I have a problem with that. And I'm looking forward to, through our housing plan, having more options for our seniors to age in place and for disabled residents to have a home here as well.
So important.
If I could maybe pop in a little bit on that.
Sure.
So one of the things that I like to tell people is that my mom and dad met at Meadowbrook. My dad was a math and science teacher at the junior high, and my mom was a speech therapist at Crestwood School when it was a school. And my mom and dad wanted to move to Northbrook, and they wanted to live here. But they, on a teacher's salary and on a speech therapist salary, they just couldn't swing it. They couldn't do it. And so I think that it's so interesting to me. That's what I heard. And my dad continued in Northbrook his entire career. So as I grew, my dad just sang the town's praises. And I would like people who work here to be able to live here. I would like my children someday to be able to come back. And as Muriel talked about, for folks with disabilities, from the very, very beginning, when I campaigned in 2009, parents talked about homes or places for their children to live as their children aged. You know, we want our parents to be close to us because we care for our parents, but we need our kids to be close to us as we care for our kids. And I think that it's so critical. And as Muriel suggests, that Northbrook has a median age of, it's 50, Muriel, it's 50.
It was 51.
I know, I think it's 50, and I will be 50 in May. So it's not that crazy. But I do think we can certainly provide some more opportunities for seniors. And I think that would be helpful for us all. And Northbrook needs to continue to be a welcoming community. And we are simply answering the call of so many by doing this.
It's a win-win for everybody.
It really is. It really is. And it's also important to note that one of the components to our plan is we call for diversity in the housing stock. So let's say a developer wants to come in and put in, 3 buildings or do something large. We require that the affordable units be dispersed throughout the development.
Right.
So you're never going to have, one unit, and that's where those people live. It's really an integration into the community, which is very valuable and dignified and meaningful. So that's our plan, that's our hope, that's our ideal. And it's been successful, as Muriel indicated, in other places. So we'd like to do that.
How soon will that be rolling out and being implemented?
It's on the books. So if a developer comes in, they know that, like in Highland Park, like in Chicago, like in other communities, you've got to have a certain percentage of your units be affordable.
Yeah.
And so that's what we look to see. Anything that's existing will continue to stay the same. Nothing will be converted. It's just for new.
Interesting.
And I think the big focus is that it's just people understanding the facts, because there is a lot of misunderstanding, and this information is on the website. It's I'm sure they can call anybody and get the details. So it's better to understand what affordable housing is. Like we said, it's not Section 8, absolutely not. That's not the intent. It is to get, I don't have to repeat what they've said, but I think the important thing is, if you don't understand what it's about, I think you should just do a little, go to the website and get a little bit more information, or just contact any one of the trustees, and they'd be willing to explain it more, versus just having misinformation and using that to make your decision.
Good point, Joy. I like that. Dan, what are some things you see or hear or read frequently addressed to the board that are not in the purview of the village board? And how do you navigate those discussions? And is there any common confusion many people have that you'd like to address?
What a great question. So one of the hot points that I hear is Northbrook Days. I happened to grow up in Northfield. I was a pitching wedge away from Northbrook. I came to Northbrook Days as a kid, and it's something that for decades and decades and decades has been an integral part of our community. It is run by the Civic Foundation, and it was using the village green, which is the property of the Park District. While we on the Board of Trustees want to work with everybody, it is not an area that we have control over at all. So what we've tried to do is get the two parties together and be a cheerleader as much as we can to make it happen. So that would be one example. It seems another one that's thrown out is people's anger about students being going to class or not, particularly at the high school. There is a separate elected board for the school district. So District 225 is not us. They get elected separately, and it's up to them to make those difficult decisions. It is not up to us. So there's different elected bodies than the Board of Trustees. As much as we like and enjoy working with all of them, we can't control what they do.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I would say another area that, but we've already talked about it, but just since you ask, is the whole defund the police, right? I think that's another area that's always, it's very misunderstood. It's not anything that we are looking to do. And I guess since I'm not in it, maybe I'll let somebody else talk about it, but I know that I've been asked about that. And I mean, I think the police department is an awesome police department. Like I said, a fantastic community, or people wouldn't be wanting to live here, right? So I think it's a great community. And we just got named what, the safest town in, is it in Illinois?
In Illinois.
In Illinois. So if we're the safest town in Illinois, I think we are very, very happy with what the police department has done. And there's nothing like defund the police going on here.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I hadn't heard that.
Yes, and we're number 39 in the United States.
Wow.
The Patch just published an article, I think it was January 21. Yes.
We have
So we're pretty proud of that.
What, Muriel?
I said we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a police department that is extremely connected to our community. We have not had an excessive force complaint in over 10 years.
Wow.
That doesn't happen by accident. Those are men and women who care, who do things the right way. Our board has always supported the police department. There has never been any talk of defunding. And as individuals, almost everybody on the board has done something, not just because they're running for election, but has done something throughout years to lift their spirits, to send something over, blizzards, or put a sign in their yard, or the front of the police station. Because as individuals who live in Northbrook, we love the police department. And we don't just love them during election time. We love them 365 days a year. And really are very committed to making sure that they have the services that they need and the equipment and the support that they need to provide the services that our residents deserve. So there is zero talk of that. And that is something that has really become tiresome and inaccurate, and getting kind of
more
answering over and over again.
I thought it was interesting when we did Leadership Northbrook, and we had our tour of all the facilities, the police department, the fire department. And during their presentation, they were explaining all the things that they can do that maybe we didn't see, whether it's fingerprinting day or stuff that's in the community. And they say, when you have a block party, remind us to come and visit and things like that. So you don't have to be afraid of, oh, they're going to give me a ticket. They're there for supporting the community, and they're not the bad guys. They're here to partner with you on things.
Correct.
Let's see. So we talked a little bit about tenured employees that are going to be retiring soon, but Dan, maybe you want to take that. How our village has been fortunate enough to have tenured employees who will be retiring soon. What is the game plan for turnover, and what is most pressing?
Well, we're incredibly fortunate that our fine top talent that has been around a long time were also good mentors. So in the planning department, Tom Popard is leaving and Michaela is stepping in. She's been here a decade or so. I watched her come in when I was on the planning commission many years ago, and she was talented right from the beginning, and she continued to grow along the way. It was my pleasure to be at a handful of off-site events that we participated together in when I was on the planning commission, and she was learning more. So we're very fortunate to have top talent that can step right in and know the village and has already been working there. Same thing in the finance department. We're having the second in command come in there as well. So even though that tenured people are leaving, I don't think we're going to skip a beat, and we're very fortunate as a result.
Good news.
I think I wanted to add to that too, because at the beginning we talked about the other group, and I think that's one huge benefit for this slate. This, apart from me being a newbie in it, but I've been in the community, like I said, for many years in many different capacities, and everybody else in this slate has, and they've been on the board for several years. And I think it's important to have that solid group of professionals that have that depth of experience to continue to lead, so that even though we do have some, retirement, there's still going to be a lot of stability because the board is solid and has that experience and has that depth. And I just don't think that other group can say the same thing.
And if I could say that the retirements that we're talking about were planned retirements. We knew before the board approved retirement incentives, we all were aware at who was on the list as a potential person who could exit, who could exercise their option for that plan. And so it was well thought out. But I think one of the pluses of the plan, and Dan alluded to the fact that we've got a good succession plan in place for new people. But Northbrook is also a really desirable community. And our talent is poached to be leaders in other communities. And I think we're not going to have a problem for those positions where we have to go outside to bring folks in. And at the end of the day, the benefit to us is that we're going to be saving up to $1 million a year over the next 5 years in order to, because of the retirements. And that was something, given COVID, given the economy and how the village has been, collecting its revenues, that's something that was attractive to us. So it really is a fiscally responsible thing to do. And as Dan said, we're going to weather this just fine because we have good talent in place.
Fantastic. Thank you.
As long as, I do have concerns. I have a very real concern if Kathryn is not elected president, considering the turnover in staff. I do have a real concern over our biggest committee, which is the finance committee, especially during a pandemic. Kathryn is someone who has literally rolled up her sleeves and gone above and beyond as a trustee to really learn, and has proven, which is part of our slogan, she has proven and she is trusted and understands the finances and how the finance committee runs and the budget. The other slate, there's zero experience. You look at development, we have huge projects potentially coming in. Green Acres, I call it the Emerald of Northbrook. The Granger project, we have Willow and Finkston. We have all sorts of things. And if Kathryn, myself, and Dan aren't elected, okay, and of course I'm only not saying Joy because I'm speaking about with the development experience, you're going to have one trustee with 10 years and one trustee with, I believe, 2 years on the Plan Commission when it comes to development. So there's going to be, unless this slate and what Joy brings to the table, I could start and we will be here another hour. She has served on boards. She has experience. She has financial experience.
Yes.
As well. So we bring experience, and experience is so needed at a time that we're in a pandemic, at a time when we have staff turnover. Experience really is everything. So it does. It's very. I really feel strongly as a resident that we need to keep the experience on the board and with the president.
Thank you. Kathryn, what current issues have been brought up at resident meetings that I haven't asked you about tonight that you think is important to share?
I think two of the concerns really relate to affordable housing. And then maybe I could add a third with respect to sustainability. With respect to affordable housing, we have many, many parents in Northbrook and many groups in Northbrook that promote opportunities for folks who have disabilities, or there are different groups. I just had a meeting on Monday with a pastor at a church whose congregation is very interested in promoting affordable housing offerings and community inclusion. And so the fear that I'm getting from these groups is that they don't want to see the progress undone by folks who may or may not come in and upset things. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of anxiety in the community about, the movement from our opponents on that end. And one of the things, a term that was used in the presidential election in November is something that I'm hearing a lot from residents, and that's a dog whistle. And that the people who are anti-affordable housing are doing so for racially motivated reasons. Okay. And it's something that is very, very disturbing, but something that people are especially concerned about and motivated to help us in ways that, get engaged in ways that they maybe normally wouldn't, because they are so fearful that the community would really go backwards. Mm. So we've seen that. And then, on a more positive front, we have people, we have a wonderful organization in Northbrook. It's called Go Green. And Go Green is actually an award-winning organization that promotes sustainable initiatives. And we're working on this sustainability plan with our governmental partners, with businesses, with developers, with residents, to come up with lots of different ways that we can incorporate sustainability into our lives. It actually cost savings options. It's not just good stuff, but it's money saving. And so I think that, that's something that's really on people's minds and something that they want to see the village move forward in. So those would be the three areas that we're hearing about pretty regularly.
Interesting. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So as we wrap up, is there anything else anybody wanted to add at this point?
I would just say that just as important as it was in November to vote, it's really important to vote in this election. Consider, the village is, everybody's had their snow plowed, right? And your streets salted. Well, that's us, right? And your garbage removed and your water and getting information. That's the village. So it would be great if people would come out and vote. You can request your mail ballot right now from the county, and Caroline, I can provide you with the link. And it's the same process that you did for the general election in November. There's also early voting, and Caroline, I'll give you the dates. Yeah. And then there's the election day, which is April 6th. So we encourage you to do whatever feels the safest for you, but we really do ask you to come out and vote. In addition to our election, there are contested elections for District 31, District 225, and also the Northfield Township Trustees. There's a contested election, a series of seats there. So it's really important to get informed and come out and vote. We need to hear from you. We really do.
Kathryn, I would also add that when not just vote, but vote the slate, right? So, because you can vote, you can vote individually, but the best thing, and like we're all here together as a group, and it's a great, solid group of individuals. So I think it's also important to let our friends and residents know that when they're voting, they need to vote the caucus slate, the slate that's been vetted by the people of Northbrook.
Yes,
I-
we will
I would just
appear.
like-
Oh, go on.
I would just like to add a very important name to me, our retiring president, Sandy Frum. She's just done a magnificent job over these last 12 years leading us. And I think her legacy is really such fine work that she has done. And the shout out specifically I'd like to pass along is to Kathryn. To see Kathryn roll up her sleeves and tackle the enormous problems ahead of us with this revenue shortfall. She was on it, and the two of them together, it was magnificent. I was so proud to be a part of it. Sit back and watch all the work that they did, and educate us, and so that we were ready to get things done for the community. So Sandy's legacy, I think, is the group that you're seeing now in front of us, and I couldn't be more proud of Sandy.
Yeah. Yes. Excellent. Well put. Well put.
True. And I think that part of the reason the village is the village that we all love is because of Sandy and her efforts. And I ask the voters to think about the different groups and the different candidates running the caucus slate and the other candidates. And when you hear a slogan that says, "Take Northbrook back again," I ask you to think about, what does that mean? Because to me, I know what I think that means. And I'm sitting here wondering, take it back from who? Northbrook's in a very sound and wonderful financial position. Our services are top notch. Our residents are top notch. Our communication is top notch. I could go down the list of everything that's top notch. So I prefer trusted, proven, and endorsed.